This is BRICS Global Television Network's weekly roundup. We begin with the headlines. India's elections are underway. China becomes Russia's key commodities buyer. Ethiopia's starvation crisis deepens. And Saudi Arabia in full bloom. Hello, I'm Juliet Newell. We begin in India, where the general elections are underway. Almost 1 billion voters are casting their votes to elect members of the Lok Sabha, that's the lower house. Balloting will continue until the 1st of June, and authorities are monitoring social media platforms and have already asked X to take down posts containing political speech. Elon Musk has obliged. He says, however, he doesn't agree with the order, but will withhold the posts for the remainder of the election period. Musk maintains that freedom of expression should extend to these posts and political speech in general. The posts contravene the country's code of conduct, according to India's Election Commission. Elected politicians, political parties and candidates have reportedly made unverified claims about the private lives of their opponents. And in the Brazil versus Musk debacle, X has finally agreed to comply with a court directive to block disinformation spreading users in the South American country. Musk appears to have done an about-turn. Earlier this month, he said he planned to disregard that order. BGTN's Brazil correspondent Chris Goldenbaum has more.
Elon Musk is causing quite the stir in Brazil. This week, the founder of Tesla and owner of X repeatedly tweeted directly to Brazil's Supreme Court Justice Alexandre Moraes. Musk accuses Moraes of disrupting Brazil's freedom of speech by demanding that several Twitter accounts be shut down. This aggressive censorship appears to violate the law and will of the people of Brazil, he tweeted. Most of these accounts are aligned with former President Jair Bolsonaro and the so-called Bolsonarism movement, which is considered by many to be the Brazilian far right. Musk threatens to refuse to comply with the decision of the Supreme Court and says he will keep forbidden accounts active. He has been warned that this may lead to a general Twitter ban in Brazil. For Guto Zacarias, councilman for the state of São Paulo, a ban of X would have negative consequences for Brazil.
From a foreign policy point of view, it would be very damaging for Brazil. Of course, there are various nuances to this ban. There's the issue of the coup, there's the issue of defending democracy. What cannot happen is that one of the biggest social networks in the world is banned under the motivation of defending democracy. I believe that people outside Brazil won't see the nuances, but will see the cold fact. One of the largest democracies in the world has banned one of the most important social networks. I don't doubt that there could be sanctions and that Brazil's image could become increasingly negative for the right reason. One of the main democracies banning one of the social networks that most protects freedom of expression.
Alexandre Moraes, who's a senior member of the Brazilian Supreme Court, has led several investigations into the former president's alleged coup attempt. He has also acted as the head prosecutor in the ongoing court proceedings with regard to the invasion of the Brazilian Congress, January last year. Critics, mainly those on the political left, argue that Musk is acting in the interests of the right, aiming to grow Twitter's influence in Brazil and increasing social polarization. They believe that the political right is on a quest to change their authoritarian image and create a narrative in which they are seen to be censorship-friendly. The prospect for X's future in Brazil remains uncertain. The outcome of this debate depends on several aspects of the Constitution and the debate on freedom of speech itself. Such debate differs from country to country and depends on each constitution. Still, what freedom means in the internet is a discussion that still rages on. Chris Goldenbaum, BGTN, São Paulo, Brazil.
Meanwhile, in South Africa, the 7th general elections will take place in around 6 weeks' time. In his weekly From the Desk of the President letter, President Cyril Ramaphosa is focused on these elections. He says the country's electoral processes, together with the rights enjoyed by citizens and political parties to organize, campaign and contest, are among the greatest strengths of our constitutional order. He added that elections take place freely and openly and that the media is free to report. The country has independent courts that administer justice without fear or favor, including an electoral court that oversees the work of the Independent Electoral Commission, that's the IEC, and the conduct of elections. As South Africa celebrates 30 years of democracy this year, Ramaphosa has recognized how much the country's political landscape has evolved and matured over the years, as voters have a wide selection to choose from in the elections. BGTN's Kaka Ngofe has more.
South Africa ranks third highest in Africa when it comes to perceptions of electoral integrity. That's according to the 2023 Electoral Integrity Global Report. Ramaphosa says this data is based on expert assessments of electoral integrity in 169 countries around the world, using indicators such as electoral laws and procedures, voting processes, campaign financing, media coverage, and vote counting. Many political analysts believe that the upcoming elections of the country will be hotly contested, with issues including the high unemployment rate, load shedding, water supply, and service delivery bound to be top of mind for voters. But will South Africans turn out in their numbers? Preliminary data for Electoral Commission indicates that almost 28 million people are registered to vote in the 2024 elections, but it's estimated that the voting age population is more than 40 million. Ramaphosa is calling on South Africans to once again prove the prophets of doom wrong, saying, "Let this year's election be yet another affirmation of the strength of our constitution order, our institutions, and our democracy." Kaka Ngofe, BGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
In Ethiopia, the government's recent assessment of food security needs has revealed very worrying results. According to the report, this year almost 16 million people in the country will face starvation and will need food aid, and about 7 million people are already experiencing high levels of food insecurity and are in desperate need of help. Tigray and Amhara are listed as the most severely affected regions. Contributing factors include the 2020 to 2022 conflict. Harvests were heavily impacted, resulting in many households with little or no food at all. Ethiopia is also battling with increasing outbreaks of malaria, cholera and measles, adding more pressure on government. And to make matters even worse, health services, medical supplies and water are in short supply. More than half of those living in cholera-affected areas don't have access to clean and safe drinking water, exacerbating the situation. The Ethiopian government has its work cut out as the drought brought on by the El Nino phenomenon continues to impact many parts of the country, with water shortages and smaller or no harvests. India and Russia have a few planned missions in space this year, as some BRICS Plus countries look to expand their projects. The business of space exploration costs billions of rand. Last year, India's Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft successfully landed on the moon, making India the fourth country in the world after the United States, the USSR and China to achieve such a feat. In the meantime, South Africa is exploring the universe using the Meerkat Space Telescope. Ray White spoke to the managing director of the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory, Adrian Tiplady, and asked him about exploring the stars.
Hello and welcome. Have you ever looked up into the night sky and you thought to yourself, what's up there? All those stars, all those galaxies. Is there life out there? What about the Big Bang as well? Did that actually really happen? Well, there's a solution for this, the Meerkat telescope, and it's a radio telescope that looks into the night sky, and of course it's attached to other telescopes as well. So we thought what we would do is get the backstory to this and find out exactly how it works and perhaps what is out there. Joining us is Adrian Tiplady. He's the Deputy Managing Director at the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory. Adrian, hi, good to have you with us. Thanks for taking the time. Okay, how does the Meerkat work?
Well, the Meerkat is basically a really sensitive radio receiver. So think of your car radio, and if you turn the radio the knob onto off your favorite radio station, you can hear that hissing sound. That hissing sound is radio noise, which is being collected by your car radio, which is being generated by everything around us. In fact, anything that's warm is emitting energy and is emitting radio energy. About 1% of that noise is actually radio noise that's coming from space. And so what a radio telescope is, it's really just an extremely sensitive car radio. And we can detect radio emissions that are coming from hot gases, cold gases, and allows us to explore the universe and the evolution of the universe.
So what's out there? What have you found so far? Because you launched the Meerkat in 2018. What have you seen?
So what is one of the most fascinating things about the Meerkat telescope is that it really is a next generation instrument. And we expected to discover things that hadn't been discovered or seen before by other radio telescopes around the world. And in fact, one of the very first things that we decided to do is to point it at the most difficult object to look at. And that's the center of the Milky Way galaxy, our own galaxy. What we discovered was, well, we produced the most clear image of the center of the Milky Way ever. We discovered astrophysical phenomenon that we hadn't been able to observe before. And this has kind of set the trajectory of scientific discovery for the Meerkat radio telescope since then all the way up until today. And the most recent discovery, for example, was a pulsar, which is it's almost like a giant diamond spinning in space, circling what could potentially be a black hole. And this is almost a holy grail of radio astronomy, because it would allow us to probe the Einstein's theory of relativity, which is perhaps one of the most profound and intriguing theories of the last century.
And to Saudi Arabia, where the Taif Rose Festival is bringing colour, beauty and sweet fragrances to the area. The festival is an annual celebration in the city of roses, Taif, from the 21st of April to the 5th of May. It's organised by the Ministry of Culture and pays tribute to the rich cultural heritage and renowned rose fragrances of the region. With over 50 events lined up, it's an immersive experience into the world of roses. One of the festival's highlights is the Grand Parade of Roses winding through the streets of Taif, culminating in Al Radaf Park. This year's festival also offers an educational experience with perfume-making workshops, shedding light on the intricate process of extracting rose water and rose oil, both highly valued commodities derived from the region's prized roses. Amongst these is the Ward Taif rose, with its distinct 30 petals, believed to be akin to the renowned Bulgarian Kazanlink rose. Taif's reputation for its cool winds and fragrant floral fields is well earned, and the festival serves as a gateway to delve into the historical and cultural significance of these blooms. Up next, BRICS Business, but first a look at what's coming to BGTN soon.
Round 3. Let's go. Right hand on 3 for Super.
In China, tensions are brewing between Beijing and the United States following a US probe into the country's shipbuilding, maritime and logistics sectors. America's launched an investigation in response to a recent petition by 5 US unions who claim trade and investment activity with China is harming US national security and corporate interests. But Beijing has hit back, saying these are false accusations and the US is trying to blame China for its own industrial problems and strongly opposes the probe. And American President Joe Biden wants to triple tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminium that currently exist under Section 301 of the Trade Act, citing unfair competition. The Trump administration used this act as part of the trade war with China to justify tariffs. Beijing says the development of China's industries is the result of enterprises' technological innovation and active participation in market competition, adding that the US accusations have simply no leg to stand on. China's promised to keep a close watch on the progress on investigations, vowing to defend its rights and interests. Meanwhile, China is set to become Russia's main buyer of key commodities, mostly due to sanctions imposed on Russia by the West. The London Metal Exchange, the LME, has banned newly produced Russian aluminium, copper and nickel, and reports say this is likely to drive Chinese imports even higher. It also leaves the Shanghai Futures Exchange as the only major commodities bourse in the world to accept Russian metals. Russia has faced severe sanctions since its invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Several companies, including McDonald's, wasted little time in exiting the country. However, Russia has been able to find alternatives to trade with, and China is a major partner. In response to the latest sanctions on Russian metals, prices have swung sharply on the LME, with aluminium surging by a record number, before later erasing most of its gains as traders digested what had happened. But the curbs on aluminium, nickel and copper announced on the LME don't prevent Russia from selling its metals to buyers outside the US or the UK. Russia accounts for about 6% of the global nickel production, 5% of aluminium and 4% of copper. For nickel, Russia is the world's second largest producer of refined Class 1 nickel, behind China, the only type on the LME. India is moving away from hard cash to cashless transactions or digital currency. Some are embracing the move, but others are against it. The rollout of this process is coming up against strong opposition, but as technology advances, can the people of India stop what many believe is inevitable? BGTN's India correspondent Ashni Daur has this story.
India is embarking on an ambitious journey to expand digital currency access across the country. The Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Mr. Shaktikanta Das, has said that in order to increase accessibility of the digital asset, the central bank is looking to promote CBDC, also known as the e-rupee, and that the use of non-bank payment system operators, which will include third-party payment app providers, will make the e-rupee more accessible to retail users.
The CBDC pilots are currently in operation with increasing number of use cases and participating banks. It is proposed to make CBDC retail accessible to a broader segment of users by enabling non-bank payment system operators to offer CBDC wallets. This will facilitate testing of resiliency of the CBDC platform to handle multi-channel transactions.
This initiative marks a significant stride towards modernizing India's monetary infrastructure. Digital currency is a legal tender issued by the central bank, which is only accessible with computers or mobile phones, as it only exists in electronic form. Unlike bank transactions, digital currency transactions do not require intermediaries like banks, and transactions can happen directly from one digital wallet to another without involving the bank. In India, the central bank is currently testing these digital currencies in a pilot phase by distributing them through banks. As yet, they have not been rolled out for practical use. For the last 2 years, India has been pushing to boost access to this digital currency for a number of reasons. Firstly, with digital currencies, India can reduce its expenditure associated with physical cash management.
India has one of the largest active internet users in the world, and approximately 1.02 billion people are mobile users in India. So it has one of the most potential of creating an impact and advantage in the sense that it is very safe and secure. Also, because RBI currently needs to print money to generate more money, so it's going to be very, very cost effective.
Secondly, The e-rupee can be programmed, which means it can be created for specific contracts, periods, or people. This way, the Indian government can ensure that funds earmarked for a specific purpose is used for that purpose only. It's a way to prevent fraud.
And now they can actually give this currency a reason to for the expense of it. So, for example, tomorrow government can say, take an example of Russian. They can do this thing. We are giving you thousand rupees. You can only use it to buy certain wheat or certain salt for this matter.
As India plans to boost its digital currency, the move could have far-reaching implications for international finance. An Indian working abroad would be able to make cross-border payments easily. Traditionally, these transactions have always involved time-consuming processes with strict compliance checks. Also, as BRICS countries are trying to move towards de-dollarization and potentially a common digital currency, India's push towards a nationwide digital currency could perhaps shape the future landscape of global payments and monetary systems.
One of the key advantages of allowing greater access to the rupee in digital format is primarily going to come through trade. It makes it easy to trade. And when I'm talking about trade, of course, international payments would become more streamlined, so to say. In general, the ease with which you can travel to India and transact, that's a big, issue, at least at the moment, because what used to happen pre-UPI was that people used to have cash. If someone is visiting from outside India, they would kind of convert, get rupees, and then pay using rupees. That's the way things used to function. Now India's leapfrogged into digital payments. Everyone is scanning, QR codes, etc.
However, not all experts are convinced. Some believe the shift to a digital currency means all transactions are traceable, which raises questions on privacy.
I understand the concern because I've also gone through the CBDC white paper that RBI have rolled out. They essentially have mentioned that they will not peek into the peer-to-peer use of e-rupee or CBDC, but this is a condition of their intent. The intent can change tomorrow. That's where the concern is coming from. If tomorrow, that's a big if, the government want to peek into the wallets of people, like let's say Vikas want to transact money with his mother. So whether government should know about this, because today that information is almost invisible to them, because I can actually give 100 rupees, tax paid 100 rupees to my mom in the form of cash. The government doesn't know that, but tomorrow government might be interested in that. And that is the only, I think, concern is.
The implementation of a digital currency amongst India's vast rural and uneducated population poses another challenge. According to a recent research by the Internet and Mobile Association of India, at least 48% of India's population does not use the internet at all. The report also estimated that by next year, 56% of all new internet users in India will be from rural India, which means internet penetration may increase going forward. But experts still feel that digital currency has a long way to go.
India has a very huge population, and the biggest problem and the challenge will be in the rural area, implementing it, especially when we see that the literacy rate is around 77%. And a lot of people are still not very well used to mobile transactions. My father still prefers on a daily basis using check rather than using digital format of payment. So as an idea, as a concept, it's very good, has a far-reaching potential, but how it will be implemented on the ground is something that the RBI really needs to look into.
Advocates of India's adoption of a digital currency argue that this is a significant step towards establishing a more inclusive and efficient financial ecosystem. They believe that it will pave the way towards a digital-first economy that empowers individuals and businesses throughout the country. As India embarks on this transformative journey towards a future enabled with digital currency, the world is keeping a close eye, eagerly anticipating the outcomes and lessons that shape the future of finance on a global scale. Ashni Dhar, BGTN, New Delhi, India.
In South Africa, unaudited data from the Central Energy Fund points to a fuel price increase next month. In May 2022, unleaded 93 petrol cost R21.51. a litre. A year later, it cost 23 Rand 1 cent. And this year in May, the price will be close to 25 Rand 15 a litre. The news for unleaded 95 inland isn't much better, with that price expected to go up to 25 Rand 50 a litre. Diesel, however, is set to decrease by 35 cents a litre, while illuminating paraffin is also set to come down by 28 cents. BGTN's Yolanda Pondo has more.
The Automobile Association says the expected price increases are due to several factors. As tensions rise in the Middle East, the rand could be under significant pressure as we head into the last 2 weeks of April, which could impact on local fuel prices in May. Percentage changes in the cost of fuel for May are forecast as follows. Petrol 93, an increase of 30 cents per litre. Petrol 95, an increase of 31 cents per litre. Diesel 0.05% wholesale, a decrease of 26 cents per litre. Diesel 0.005% wholesale, a decrease of 31 cents per litre. And illuminating paraffin, a decrease of 19 cents per litre. The AA is also calling for a review of the fuel price structure, saying it's necessary to establish if any components within the current pricing model can be revised by the Central Energy Fund. Yolanda Pondo, BGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Up next, Formula One hits the Shanghai circuit and Kenya and Ethiopia excel in the Boston Marathon. These BRICS stories and more coming up in just a bit.
It's a beautiful day in the city of Johannesburg. Today's dreamer is 7-year-old Ayanda Fayabo. He suffers from blood cancer. Having a dream come true is the best way to forget about a life-threatening disease. His dream was to go to the zoo and ride a go-kart. Ayanda's mom, dad and brother are delighted to see how much their son has grown and are grateful to be spending time with him.
Well, it's a big weekend for China as the Formula One Grand Prix takes place at the Shanghai circuit for the first time in 5 years. There are concerns, however. The drivers have not had much practice on the resurfaced circuit, and it's unknown how the current specification of F1 cars will respond. Red Bull's Max Verstappen and Ferrari's Carlos Sainz have been particularly vocal about this and say the sprint race is likely not a good idea. But race weekend goes ahead regardless, and for one driver, it's a dream come true. Sauber's Zhou Guanyu is looking forward to driving in front of his home crowd, and that's the first time in his F1 career. The Shanghai-born driver says to be the first Chinese driver ever to compete in the Formula One in China means a lot to me. It fills me with immense joy, pride and responsibility. Hoping to get a podium finish, Guanyu says either way, he's fulfilled his dream. Going into the weekend, Max Verstappen leads the drivers' standings with 77 points. Sergio Perez's number 2 was 64, followed by Charles Leclerc in 3rd, Carlos Sainz in 4th. And it's Red Bull in the top spot for the constructors' standings at the moment, followed by Ferrari and then McLaren. In the United States, the Boston Marathon has seen stunning performances by Ethiopian and Kenyan athletes this year. In the men's race, Ethiopia's Sise Lema took first place, with fellow countryman Mohamed Essa coming in just behind him. In third place, Kenyan runner Evans Chebet. In the women's race, Kenya's Helen Obiri clinched first place, followed by another Kenyan, Sharon Lokedi. Edna Kepelgat from Kenya came in third. Lema recorded a time of 2 hours, 6 minutes and 17 seconds, and Obiri 2 hours, 22 minutes and 32 seconds, claiming her second consecutive win in Massachusetts following her maiden marathon victory last year. The 34-year-old's now focusing on the Paris Olympics and is keeping an eye on achieving a hat-trick in next year's Boston Marathon. And is the Saudi royal family looking to take over Inter? If reports are to be believed, it won't be another Saudi sovereign wealth fund purchase, even though there have been public investment fund links to Inter in the past. Rather, the Saudi royal family is believed to be aiming for support from private investors. This is not the first time seeing the Saudi Football Administration showing interest in owning football clubs in Europe. Turki Al-Sheikh, chairman of the board of directors of the Saudi General Entertainment Authority, officially completed his takeover of Spanish football club Almeria in 2019. According to Spanish paper Marca at the time, Almeria was sold to Turki Al-Sheikh in a deal carrying a price tag of around 20 million euros. That's $22.26 million, give or take. Almeria survived the relegation battle by a solid point in the 2022-23 Spanish La Liga season. And this season looks bleak for the team, as they have only managed to win one match out of 31 and are sitting stone last on La Liga with only 14 points to show. It seems that only a miracle will save the Saudi-owned team if they are to survive the drop to the second division of Spanish football. As far as Inter Milan's concerned, the rumour out there is that the main factor contributing to uncertainty around Sunning's future at Inter is the sizable loan that they still owe to Oaktree Capital. The due date for that loan to be paid is the 20th of next month. If Sunning defaults on the loan, their shares in Inter will pass into the hands of Oaktree, which gives the Nerazzurri owners just over a month to find a way to avoid that. And according to Italian outlet Repubblica, a family from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has taken interest in the Serie A side and is considering a takeover. Coming up, would you believe that slap fighting is helping some men in their battle against mental health problems? But first, let's take a look at what's coming to BGTN soon. The Kruger National Park, an area of beauty, the custodian of most of Africa's rhino population, a park of breathtaking nature, but also an area of horror. And finally, the issue of mental health, especially in men, is often not discussed as much as it should be. Those who suffer from conditions like depression and anxiety seldom seek out the help they need. So what's the connection with slap fighting? I'll give you a clue. It's a positive one. BGTN's Lebo Masike has that story.
It's a fairly new sport and growing in popularity on the global stage. It's called slap fighting. Overall, participating in sports can contribute to a healthier mind by reducing stress, improving mood, fostering social connections, and enhancing self-esteem. The sport of slap fighting has given many of its participants the will to live again.
1, 2.
Join us as we spark conversations, foster empathy, and inspire hope. Hello and welcome. I'm Lebo Masike, bringing you a show on mental health awareness, where every story is a step towards healing.
Eat with an open hand, you can't do that. And open hand to bite down on your gum guards. Technique on this, to get the core with the weights. Then I can get another shot, because what am I doing?
Having faced some dark times, including overcoming suicidal thoughts, Barry, the Otter Green, has found a passion for slap fighting, and he's on his way to the top. Through this candid conversation about real-life experiences, we uncover raw emotions and the triumph on the road to recovery.
We're in the company of Barry. We're going to talk about mental health issues. We're going to talk about slap fighting. and everything else in between. Perry, thank you so much for welcoming us into your amazing space.
Thank you very much for having me.
Barry, before we get into slap fighting and how it rescued you from your mental health challenges, just take us through, how you grew up, basically.
Well, I was baby Mauritius, so there's 10 years between me and my brother. So I was a spoiled baby. My brother did everything for me. I could not do anything wrong in my mom's eyes till high school came. Then, yeah. So my father was a boxer, grandfather boxer, and all those things. So I was never allowed to do that side because I've Perthes. So that means my bones don't work. Like my hip is like this. So I could never do a contact sport. So I only did cricket and swimming and cycling. So the mental thing is actually, now when you sit and think about it, it's actually been coming since 2005, if you think about it. And yeah, I've had a very successful life so far. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. But yeah, I've always had the support structure of my brother with me. So that's a good thing about it, yeah.
For you, what was the low for you, the lowest point that you found yourself in?
Suicide. I broke down, cried, a lot of trust issues in relationship. So that all became because I was on social media a lot, so I did quite well on social media. And my family felt I neglected them. So it's about the discipline, and it's actually a brotherhood where even on the group I can show you constant. Bobby actually phones weekly, phones the guys, how are you doing, what's happening? And last year we lost one of our brothers. Doopy.
What do you remember the most about her?
Yeah, we spoke to him the day before. Nothing was wrong. He was the life of the party, always happy. And yeah, just ended it. Yeah. Beautiful girls. So yeah, that's where everybody realized, you know what, it's real, everybody spoke to him. And the slap fighting it's a lot of support. I mean, we don't badmouth each other. We're gonna slap each other, but you might as well be nice. But it's a sport. We don't, no disrespect. If you start about somebody in their family or personal, you get removed. There's a lot more stress in life. You don't need your safe place to be like that. Rise above the hate. You are better than that. Let's fix it. Fix yourself. Come on. What can you do? What will make your day better? And then you'll see another one is never give up.
Barry, as we wrap up, what would your closing words when it comes to mental health challenges, reaching out for help, and also slap fighting,
It's okay not to be okay. Such a cliche. If you look at a river, you throw a rock in the river, the water's going to go over it, around it, underneath it. You just have to find your water in your river. I found that in slap fighting. Doesn't matter of my mood, the guys will come from whichever side. It's find the safe space. There's a lot of groups you can get hold of. You can find me on TikTok, Boss Otterbaz. So if you just want to talk, yes, find something like slap fighting. It's a brotherhood. We need a couple of weight divisions, so we might have one or two heavyweights.
The support individuals offer each other in navigating mental health challenges is invaluable. Together, let us continue to prioritize mental well-being, break down stigma, and build stronger and more supportive communities where everyone feels heard, valued, and empowered on their journey to mental health wellness. Lebo Masike. BGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, that's it for now. We'll have more BRICS stories for you next week. For now, check out our social media for daily updates.